we are attempting now both again an empowerment and an enforcement regarding the question how flats are being co-used here in Germany. I take me as a very prominent an example because this part of the most central parts of the core criminal complex, of the criminal core complex. This is going to be a longer video, not a reel. Simply believe it upon the previous reels that it is now somewhere mid of April 2025 and I'm doing it live. I am here myself in Wilmer Westermann and so on and so forth. No one scribbled anything down for me beforehand in order for me then to present something and to better my position or dragging me out of muds and grounds, which seems not really possible. This is going to be a post because likely there are going to be add-ons. Firstly, and secondly, it is harking back onto several reels, so it is not. I cannot decide which reel fits better to the context because indeed, upon having started here, I don't know where I'm ending. So, if it indeed was the case that here in this flat, it is called Erfurt 4, that I'm watched all over, though I don't drag the curtains, and listen to everything which I say and don't say and utter and don't utter and which time at night or day, and who else might be with me or not, then this demands for an answer. This would indeed demand for an answer. Questioning here and there does not make sense because I would receive the answer no. For example, Verfassungsschutz. No, for Westermann, with your identity, everything is in order. Yeah, you get your €1,000 welfare a month, and we are fine with that. And nothing is filed with the police as of yet. Or prior having driven the tram without having paid. This is done. It was also completely uninteresting. Not really though. So we are okay and you should be also. Well, the opposite is true. I'm not okay. Because I could have earned more. Differently. I could have earned and I could have earned loads. And that since decades even. Since more than 20 years, this is decades. This is plural. So if it was indeed the case that here the flat was already prepared for when having moved in, because prior it was, according to my standard, indeed not very livable in. The ceiling not white, the floor was okay, but the ceiling it was so there had to be done something, and also here is a so-called Zwischenwand. Yeah. So this thing they would have done inside for me. Likely there is something. If one would tear down walls, there was something. So, my brother would communicate though. He would stare deeply, halfway threatening me into the eyes, just upon seeing an old electric device on my balcony, which I could not have put elsewhere before his and his Lebensgefährtin's visit. That might have been 2014 or so, and I had been just taken out of the Erfurt Homelessness Care Center. Taken out, aha, A psychologist would spring in. Frau Westermann, you are nearly 50, you were taken out. Yes, indeed. I was put that down in Germany, that indeed also I needed external help. So, this suggests that there was something maybe prior in the flat Erfurt 3. And as regards Erfurt 2, in which I lived in from after the arson, autumn 2004 till 2006 spring, then it was not rented to elsewhere because I did not do it, and after I returned. Then I got thrown out because I would try a pledge against the Stuttgartian landlord. Assuming that it was not necessary to file first with a court, a file on grounds of totally molded property of mine, which was in the cellar that was heated though. So, if it was the case, as I often state simply, and halfway have begun to argue, that Erfurt 2, after my move out there to Erfurt 3, was then used for providing an address, a known address, an address that would be still registered with the Erfurtian University. So if people from elsewhere would consider not simply sending there something to, but asking beforehand, they would have received a kind of okay. Me, Erfurt 3 then. Erfurt 3 though was not a coincidence. I would there be placed straight into the realm of but the grandmother of the talked about Gabriele Riem, looks-wise, I'm certain. That one would have a housefreund that would look similar to a neighbor of mine in Lower Saxony though. They would live above. This is maybe important because prior already the Struwelpeter theme had been introduced. I don't recall the how exactly, but I think it was indeed introduced. We have here a Struwelpeter case. If you know that children's book, they're in this story in which a twin pair is dragging out fried chicken out of the oven of an old grandma. So the grandma would herself, or together with her house friend, or she would receive guests dragging out fried chicken out of my computer. There I would do the first version of the reconstruction of the core criminal complex, having no visitors at all, despite I had friends here though, I think. They were all away. They would show me that after my return 2007. So, my parents would visit me once in a while, showing, however, both no real interest and no understanding at all, and always harking back to what they have taught by my brother, that indeed it was not possible that a laptop is completely bound into else a system and is part of a crime complex, one must say. Um, also, so, presumably after my move out from there also, because also I can lose my nerves, yeah, and so I did not follow up on every letter I received, and all of a sudden I received the appointment for me having to move out into the Erfurt Homelesscare Center. I cannot follow up on that because I don't have the documents. Um, so, a reasoning a reasoning would go as follows. If prior Erfurt 2 had been used for as a letter address, as a letterbox address at least, for receiving post directed to me on grounds of what I had experienced in the UAE, then likely also Erfurt 3 was used that way. And if the second time proved to be a huge success, because not because a huge success, then it is likely that also this flat had to serve certain needs, and that was to make sure that either way, either upon searching here or prior upon the expectancy that I here at the latest would completely freak out. For that, however, they have already material, yeah? So the only thing they would need is me moving out here, showing that there is material in walls or anything that that would be theirs, though, showing that everything here has been recorded, and that would not be the talks that I do here, but the freaking out in the time period 2007 to 2010. Meaning, they indeed could let have me died already in 2010. Wasn't it for the uncertainty that I had done Vorstellungsgespräche? This, however, is tricky. This is really tricky because on the one hand it says authorities are not allowed to keep things, those kind of things when people introduce themselves with CVs and so on for longer than 3 months. But however, one does not know. One does not know. One does not know. Else could have taken even material into his very home, put it onto a shelf, into a bank storage, send it abroad, anything. You simply don't know. You simply don't know. That not a freaked out an idea on grounds of the very fact that I had to argue that indeed commencing with mid of 95, indeed a website was being established. Me and my existence being either at first intraneted or immediately online, and so this was the way I became known. Upon not having informed me on anything, just giving me bad feelings, something is not in order and I don't know what to ask. So, it's not completely a freaked out an idea. I want to argue, and if one considers prior decades, because then I was beginning of 20 to mid 20. Yeah, so the core criminal complex the criminal core complex had started at the latest with my birth in 2073. Born to German parents, teachers. Yeah, though I have a Jews nose, but that was due to the Hamburg rescue after, however, a murder attempt or an accident done by my brother, likely because my mother functions differently, but I would receive a message otherwise. Yeah, so, and as regards her, also she had been a recipient of abortion pills, likely, because she would have 2 abortions in the 60s, prior to my brother, or after, no, prior, and prior to me. Yeah, if we never had the chance, one must say, I either, on their behalf, to put that all into context, and now this is what I'm doing here. I suggested that order came from Hesse, where also the crest had been chosen, any crest, in order to let her be blue-blooded, or him be blue-blooded, and thereupon doing freaky little games involving else people. And that must have been from Hesse, is firstly due to the fact that there they have the Deutsche Adelsarchiv. This would have given ideas, just address-wise, by walking by. It is in the midst of the so-called Südviertel. So one does not know if what people think and then do if they walk drunk through the streets in the 60s, yeah, 50s even. And also the fact that each and every flat that I rented there, mostly on my own, for my own, paid by my parents though, not though, but paid by my parents for a law student, if later unsuccessful, but as one sees, maybe having learned one or the other thing. Unexpectedly though, without that expectancy, already without that, already the situation created is inescapable, yeah, inescapable in Germany. So, and each and every flat told something. Either it harked back, or it had certain elements in it, and so on and so forth. This is already in a list, part of the first version of my core criminal complex. How do I call it? Core criminal complex. So. And if now one or the other time there was a hint that indeed these and that people might be ready to having safeguarded me, I suggest the otherwise. They want to have all options and they wanted to reap, and this is exactly what they done, and they would even take the TV to help in order to read my facial expressions. It is possible. It is signal capturing and redoing. Redo each and every movement within my face in order to then take on further steps, or thinking ahead and doing nice little traps that I would step in, or other people would step into, else things. I can for certain say that I can trace that back to the very fact that I indeed did do a ticking on a formula provided by the Marburgian Psychology Institute in summer 1993, and objectively expecting that nothing else would follow upon that, other than an invitation to redo crosses on another formula again for a second time, and also receiving a 5 Euro or 10 Deutsche Mark. Differently, differently as I would reconstruct, differently indeed, and this speaks for the fact that it was not, this is now counter the Verfassungsbeschwerde that maybe a Friederike Lüthe was set upon. This would run counter a possibility of a Verfassungsbeschwerde involving lastly also the County Hesse. I would presume that indeed certain people, then psychology students merely, would do their very own thing and do that what I ticked upon, else created a background for that, or began to having created a background for that, and I likely was but one, not having stepped into a trap. Was it a trap? It was a formula that I ticked crosses upon. No, it was a robbery. It was a prolonged, indeed a prolonged robbery. Each and every evening and night I would sit together with Gerhard Tuschow and his then at that time girlfriend Nadia Tuschow-Zieli and else people. Prior though, we had months on our own before that aforementioned would spring out of a box, so to speak. All of a sudden she had that one and I could only wonder, but it is not nothing much of my business. So that one would sit each and every night beside us and just listen. Just listen. He was a bysitter, a non-talker. Likely that he afterwards went and scribbled down just anything possible, or halfway the truth, which would be halfway is always the same. Yeah, people are sitting together, having a drink, having a cigarette, watching or listening, talking. Firstly, doing juridical stuff together as a group, which was common. So completely uninteresting. So thereupon it was clear that something had to happen in order to make things more juicy, and that would be a second a strain from which the idea could have sprung up on grounds of expectancies that also MR1 was wiretapped, tapped. That indeed one could hang in a webcam. Indeed, one could hang a webcam, and this communication that might be happening, and the why and so on and so forth, the whys and so on and so forth, would come from a completely different a direction, namely from Hamburg, from a person that would consider himself being blue-blooded, upon having introduced as his mother as being blue-blooded, and thereupon likely having been married to an oncologist. Or was he prior, in the beginning of the 80s, a very Notarzt or a student seeing that all, and then doing thereupon, and so on and so forth. Is it understandable? So those psychology people would set up that, invite other people from which they knew that I had contacts with them. Marburg 3, the second of two male co-inhabitants, one after the other. I would now be interested why that one moved out. It just was said he moves out, so what can one do? Yeah, it is a free country here. Likely he had to move out because he, as firstly he was Jugoslav, as he would say, and secondly he indeed had a girlfriend that claimed to stemming from Iran. So maybe this at that point of time, mid of 90s, was too hot and too unforeseeable, too untackable, if one wills. Also, a third reason, it was already begun to letting me be a pioneer, just because the now a completely different circle of people, the friend of my brother, would meet me and my mother coincidentally and would utter that very word pioneer upon shortly having talked with me about the 13 points criminal law, German criminal law homework result. So then that keyword, and likely they wanted to keep the tradition and let me be the first being seen with a, also he claimed to be stemming from the Iran, unlikely or not, letting me be a pioneer there again for any reason that the TV alongside the one side of the bed of the futon of the love relationship number 2 case shows, and later then a repetition in another a city, in another a flat, introduced by a person as if now official, and there likely indeed earnings loads, but us, me, I did not earn anything. I just had to. I just had to be captured when one day having my ass on top. Yeah, so likely they wanted to keep that tradition, be a pioneer, but don't get anything upon it. Just be robbed, be stripped off. Lastly, the result as such. I'm now referring to the 13 points homework because the first time that that has been done and achieved was so convincing that we continue with that ever after. This now invites for the question who. This should be in the next video. So, and who do I want to empower here? Yeah, I don't know if those people have gotten something. Oh, this is enforcement. I consider it criminally relevant. Empowerment would concern many people. I don't know whether I'm one of few merely that had survived that attack, one must say, out of the Psychology Institute of Marburg, or as now undergirded of that circle that once was halfways my friends of a long-yeared social contact of mine. So I have to. I want to repeat those options. Are there other options, versions? I simply urge. Yeah, I urge. Help me, please help me. Give me a proper email address. Give me a proper person to talk to, and give me a proper source where all what I had uttered here in the course of 10 years, over 10 years, had been delivered to. I would presume very much the health care center, and that prompts the question who those people are, and if the person that serves there as a chief was the very person that is likely as a minor to having taken my homework in the then beginnings or close to ends to else people that needed it. For example, the Struwelpeter theme. For example, a twin pair that also was situated. Would you believe that in Erfurt too? In Erfurt 2 was a person living, he would introduce himself though, that was astoundingly similar looking to the very person, jurist, that would give me, we have just sold you and betrayed you smiles. Um, So, the address was Erfurt Györer Straße. This also demands for an answer. Why Györer Straße? Györer Straße, this is Hungary. I don't know whether I want to connect that to that assumption that one can find in a video that belongs to a compilation of localities concentrated videos that connect also docents' names. But it is a city in Hungary, and it sounds as the German noun, a female child that is halfway uneducated and not polite. Sound-wise. Considering their neighbors, oh yes, this is also important, because the other week when I was driving by and even marched in, no one would open from within that flat. The whole house made a completely different impression, but this might be due to remembrances and the differences of floors. This one is completely different than that one. But I had that address, this is clear. Is it clear? Oh yes, very much, because that second lawyer would do me the favor to not having dealt with my inverted commas, then having been built up debt cases. Though having been enabled from shall I say, our side. When before marching into that larger complex, living complex, a neighbor would show up. A neighbor, not the then there having lived there. That one is likely dead, but another one, and that one indeed, on a day it was completely unforeseeable that I would drive there with my bicycle. That was not foreseeable, but that one was able to wear the very vest. Firstly, was able to wear that very vest that at times at least the blue-blooded, the Hamburgian, the former MR3 co-inhabitant would wear. But I would say it was not him though. And he is represented here in the neighborhood, having shown up once in a while and smiling. He goes here as a farmer or anything. And he would do a gesture that I saw twice. That the gesture that he would make from his balcony downwards to me, I was whistling. He would show me that gesture, which I saw prior twice, namely, if I'm not too mistaken, in the Erfurtian Healthcare Center number 1, albeit I don't recall the context. But then later, in the same time frame, the lady from above would show me that very gesture that I recognize now upon having seen that one. And this context I do remember. I would ask, I would hear myself asking, shall I carry your bag? Shall I carry your bag? And she would make that gesture. I would translate, no, you don't have to, I'm doing it on my own. Or no, it is all my stuff and it is mine and it is meaning in there and it is all for me or for us there above. This demands all for doing a sounder, a network, likely a criminal network, first compiling all nodes adjacent and graspable, and then doing a sound analysis. However, if it was indeed the case that the younger one over there managed upon certain undertakings here to grab herself a policeman. A policeman. This is this is the object of one of my reels, my prior reels. Had managed that, and that one was from North Rhine-Westphalia, and there people are doing all on Klüngel, as one knows, and they have maybe better connections to Great Britain, or they think so, than I, having been for the first time in my life encountered British people that were not so very nice. As if someone from at home wanted to show me, you all often in England during holidays? No, we were there. Why were you in England? Because I liked it there. So one would collect all networks connectable. Also important because of the fact that my reel also tells you that they can copy their voices. So that younger one from above indeed has the very same voice as the likely, maybe even not psychology, biochemistry knowledge, because she studied medicine, younger sister of the very Tülay Kotra. So would one not want to know more about her? Other than reading something during paid work time, though, if police officers were involved, that reading a private text complaining about the fact that me did not get a job in Berlin, which indeed would have cheered me up. Indeed, it would have cheered me up and would have earned me a little money, more money than here and there, and would have put me on a different level already. This was hindered by the very same voice as the sister of Tülay Kotra. I think so, yes. As the same voice as that one over there. What does that say? It says objectively that, despite those grounds, it says Germany needs a person that plays here till its very life end, the unpaid idiot. The unpaid idiot having taught loads of people on grounds of not having consented to doing here a school. On those grounds.